Donald Trump hasn't just picked heads of cabinet departments that are wildly unqualified for the positions that they're going to fill and sort of philosophically diametrically opposed to the point of those departments. He also just hasn't chosen people to fill literally hundreds of positions throughout the government, many of them holding incredibly important national security positions. And so let's talk about the difference between the Trump administration and the way that previous administrations have done it. Barack Obama, as Cenk alluded to earlier in the show, did not fill, by the time he was sworn in, all of the positions, especially in positions of national security. So what he did was he had the previous Bush appointees hold that position for several weeks. Trump is not doing that. Trump's administration has reportedly demanded that many of Obama's choices, including ambassadors, leave immediately. The Pentagon, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the Department of Homeland Security have all named interim successors who will run their agencies until Trump's appointees are confirmed. And those are cases where at least he has chosen someone. They just haven't yet been appointed. Interestingly, the CIA says it has a similar arrangement in place for a person to run the agency should Mike Pompeo not be confirmed by Friday, but it declined to say who. And I would have followed that up with, no, we're not fucking around. You got to tell us who's actually going to be leading it. How can they have a head of the CIA and we don't get to know who it is for a few weeks?
It's the CIA.
Seems a little bit odd. Let's see. So at Department of Homeland Security, Trump will dismiss most or all of 16 senior positions that require Senate confirmation. These include the heads of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, the Customs and Border Protection, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The transition hasn't even named anyone to replace them, but those departments will be without leadership until he chooses someone. Then the ethics investigations go on, the hearing nominations, and then the vote. For some reason, he doesn't think it's important. It's Customs and Border Protection. This is a guy who ran on a wall on the border, doesn't think we need leadership at the border in the interim. And so that, by the way, is just a few. There's apparently at least 600 positions, many of them in defense and national security, that he hasn't even chosen someone for the position yet, let alone had them vetted and eventually voted on.
So I've got to admit that I was partly wrong about this. Because earlier in the week, I was talking about his incompetence, and I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And I think that's probably still somewhat true. But I realize, having read all these stories, someone in the Trump administration, not Trump, he literally is not involved in the details at all, right, did come up with this plan. And it is actually a fairly clever plan. So there's only 2 of the nominees that have been confirmed so far, and he's now president. That's actually the lowest amount since George H.W. Bush. Now, there's a reason for that. We explained this to you last week. It's because Obama, for example, and Bush, they nominated people, they actually brought people much earlier on. Once they knew they won, they would bring them in front of the Senate so they can get confirmed in time so that when they took office, they'd already be ready to go, right? That's how other Republicans and Democrats did it. Trump introduced them really, really late. Now he gets to say, oh my God, they haven't confirmed anyone. They only confirmed 2 guys. We're in a panic. And all these positions are not filled. Why? You just literally kicked them out the door. Well, they're not filled. This is an emergency. This is an emergency. And then John Cornyn, senator from Texas, tweets, I am prepared for the Senate to stay in session as long as it takes all night, all weekend to confirm President Trump's cabinet nominees. If you have super controversial nominees, this is how you jam them through.
Yep.
You create a sense of panic and conflict, and you go, oh my God, they're not filled. The CIA, National Security, Education Department, Energy, Health and Human Services, what are we going to do? We got to fill them. Oh, the Democrats, they haven't confirmed anyone. We're going to stay here all weekend. And by the way, you know politicians, they hate staying in the weekend, right? So you know what they're going to do? They're going to jam everyone through. It's a strategy, and it's politically pretty smart one.
But, I mean, don't Republicans have the majority? So weren't they just going to confirm anyone that Trump wanted anyway?
They want the hearings to be shorter. Yeah. They want the news cycle to be shorter.
They want to embarrassing.
That's right. You want to keep talking about how Betsy DeVos doesn't know a single thing about the Department of Education. You want to keep talking about how Rick Perry thought that the Department of Energy was actually an oil company lobbyist. Oh my, you don't want to talk about that. They're a bunch of morons.
No more stories about bears.
You want to talk about how both of those people want to destroy the departments that they are in charge of. The guy in charge of the head of the EPA wants to destroy the EPA. You don't want to talk about
Carson.
that. You just want to jam them through and go, to panic. this is Naomi Klein, explained this a long time ago. You create a crisis, and then you solve the crisis by saying, confirm all of my insanely controversial nominees right away, right? And let's get it out of the news cycle. And you'll wake up one day and there's no Department of Education. What happened? Oh, well, remember when we put Betsy DeVos in?
Yeah.
Well, I hope Sanders and Warren continue to be fighters and continue to do what's necessary for us to get those awesome videos of the incompetence of these nominees.
Yeah, and we got to give credit to Franken. He's been great. Kane had some really good questions too, and unexpected from him.
Who's Kane?
Tim Kaine.
Oh, who's that?
That was
He's still around. Okay.
I thought he was walking around the woods too, but it turns out he showed up in the Senate.
John, I watched some of his questioning. I was like, who's that guy? Where was he?
Yeah.
That's not the Tim Kaine I know.
He was like on the ball,
No
like he was
kid-
playing a lawyer in a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
He seemed competent and he had a purpose and
Yeah.
he seemed genuine.
Yeah.
He's salty now, He's
Yeah. I'm with Anna, by the way. If I was Sanders, Warren, any of those guys, we'll go all weekend. I brought my sleeping bag. Okay, let's have fun. How long would you like to go? I'm here 2 weeks, man. I don't need to go anywhere. I got a nice couch in my office. Let's have another hearing, right? Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go talk to the press about your grotesque incompetence, how you have endangered the country by firing people who are already doing the job without having anybody to replace them. It's not on me. I'm not the president. Bernie Sanders could have been the president, and he would have done this competently. But that's not the direction we went. You're the president, Donald Trump. It's your positions that are empty. That's because you're incompetent. We are the watchers on the wall. We are the sword in the darkness. Come join us. tytnetwork.com/join.